Hello and welcome back to another EDH deck design video. Today I'm going to be showing one of my thematic decks I have put together recently. This deck is piloted by Kaervek the Merciless, but this is definitely not a typical Kaervek deck. Kaervek here is mostly known for being a Punisher, one of the classic original Punisher style generals from Time Spiral. His character's storyline is pretty cool. He was around Mirage, dicking around with Joyal, the Empress, and kind of wanted to figure out what was going on with the temporal nonsense that Teferi had caused. As a card, he is a 7 mana 5 black-red for a human shaman 5/4 that has a fun ability of whenever an opponent casts a spell, even if it has like rebound or something, I get to do damage equal to the mana cost to a creature or player. So he is typically known as a Punisher style general. Personal experience, I've had fun with him in the past, but in most recent years, like the past 5 or so years of EDH evolving, he has really just become a very underwhelming general. Most people will remember what kind of board state he creates, and they will hold up like a Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, Pognify, Rapid Hybridization, some like 1 mana costing removal spell. So in the non-rampy black-red colors, you can struggle to get to 7 mana to get your expensive general out, and your net result there will be like gut-shotting something. But again, this is a thematic deck. I chose him for a few reasons to be the pilot of this deck. Some people who play may recognize a few players who get a little OCD and are annoyed by people who splash whitewater cards into their deck. Some people just don't care, some people are OCD. I'm OCD. So what I actually ended up doing was making an all-white border deck. When I started brewing this design, it was blue-black. It was going to be piloted by Nebuchadnezzar from Legends. He's a really cool referencing card from the guy from, I don't remember that book's name, whatever. The guy who made like the tower, like the spiral tower from the Babylonian time, I think. But anyways, his card is really clever. It's really cool and thematic. There's 2 major problems when doing that blue-black brew. Number 1, power level. There was just no consistent ways of winning. And in those colors, there's actually some very expensive cards going all white border. I've been able to pick up a few fake cards for this deck. And some of those you'll see. For example, an Imperial Seal. I have a fake Imperial Seal in here. Going blue-black was way more expensive than black-blue, or black-red. Things like Badlands versus an Underground Sea. I would most likely never get an Underground Sea. Things like Capture Jingzhou, things like that are just way more expensive than I was willing to invest in. There's a second theme to this deck in which not only is it all white border, but they are also all red border cards as well. So that may also really piss off some people. Again, there's quite a few fake cards. This deck started highly budget. Most of the quote-unquote expensive cards in here are not real. I do plan on replacing a lot of them because I don't like running fake cards. But with this theme, a red border deck, I will not be doing that to a Imperial Seal or any card that actually has a value over $20. So, Kaervek here, he is the general for a reason. This deck, this restriction of white border only cards, if you played Magic like earlier than the year 2000 or 2003, I suppose. Yeah, 2000 sounds about right. Most of the creatures just suck. Like, terribly. Most of the cards, the powerful cards, are just instant sorceries and artifacts. There's not a lot of ways of actually winning in Commander with creatures from pre-2000. They're just not really good. So I had to have damage. That's why we went red. Let's take Kaervek over here, and I will show the creatures that did make the cut. I also have a stack of cards, and there's a few cards I really do want to get for the deck. I just have not actually had a chance to get everything I want. Because of, number 1, I don't really want to invest in cards I am permanently damaging. So anything that has any significant value over like $1 or $2, I'm very hesitant to actually purchase. Number 2, again, I'm just not really pursuing this. Most of these cards came from picking up really shittied out versions of these cards at my local shop or from friends who don't care about them. Royal Assassin, I love this card. It's a little 1/1. I can tap and destroy tap creature. It's a great rattlesnake. The way this deck pans out in the first few turns, it just puts up some kind of a chaotic randomness, some kind of deterrent. There are 41 lands in the deck with 9 accelerations. Technically 1 land doesn't tap, so half the deck's mana. The Kaervek is our eventual win condition from slow damage, but we have a lot of early game dirtily effects. Royal Assassin's perfect here. He's just a 1/1, makes people not want to attack you. We have Hippie, the original Hypnotic Spectre, and Abyssal Spectre, which is a 2/3 body, so this can survive one of the enchantments. I have a Aether Flash in here, which kills almost all of my creatures, except Hippie, except the Abyssal Spectre. I could have put Dark Ritual, so I could have gone the classic turn 1 Hypnotic Spectre, but that didn't seem smart enough in this format. Then we have the Spectre here, Necrotol, which did make the cut, and it is something that again will die to half of my own deck, really, but it is a spot removal for non-black. Sadly, there's a lot of non-black spot removal in the deck. Most of the good, cheap removal spells have that restriction tacked on. And the last creature in the deck is Uncle. This is a creature that was printed before Legends, and there are named creatures like Alibaba from Cairo, for example. The named cards some people consider to be original Legends before Legends. So sometimes you'll see a very casual player using one of these as a general. This is a 4/4/1/3 that is essentially immune to combat damage. I just like him. Now, this is a heavy spell influenced deck. A big chunk of the deck is spell based. So we have some tutors. This is actually a fake card. I plan on getting a real Vamp Toot eventually. I'm just looking for one of the shittiest qualities Vamp Tutors I can get on eBay. Again, a lot of people may be very unhappy at me permanently damaging a card of this caliber. What you're not realizing, if you are not seeing some of the borders, I'll show some of them actually next, because, well, yeah, here's a fake Imperial Seal. This is a legit card, but what you may not be able to see is the borders of this card. You can a little see right there, it's still faded. When I got this was an absolutely in disgusting condition. Like, the back was marred, the borders were completely blacked out. Painting and sharpening over some of that, I was able to lift most of the dirt and grime, but it was essentially permanently damaged. So picking this up off my shop for $6, a Demonic Tutor for $6, yeah, that's actually pretty good. So I plan on doing the same for Vamp Toots. It's kind of an expensive card, approximately 25-ish. If I can find a gross one, I will be pursuing that. Imperial Seal, I will not be pursuing. So what these guys are: 1 mana for a Sorcerer Speed, tutor any card you want to the top of your deck, lose 2. Instant Speed does the same thing, strictly better, but limited print. Demonic Tutor puts it to hand. Grim Tutor is another fake card. I will not be pursuing this for a real card. It's just slow tutor, lose 3, put to hand. Typically this is a $200 card, but I am not going to permanently damage a Grim Tutor, even in a bad condition one. Then we have some other card advantage cards. 2 to draw, which are the exact same card. Ambitions, Cost, and Ancient Cravings. Both of these are just 4 mana, draw 3, lose 3. And a last card tempo swing is Mind Twist. I love this card. Sadly, the Alpha Beta one, the black border legit ones, are way overpriced. You can get an unlimited or revised one for about $2. Going on to the rest of the spells, we have a few dirtily spells. Reanimate and the Ashes to Ashes. These are the only 2 reanimation spells I am running that are, well, there's an enchantment. But both of these are just great. Reanimate is actually one of the quote-unquote expensive cards in the deck, where I think I spent about $5 for this. And then Ashes to Ashes, which is like 10 cents. Then we have Pillage. This actually features Kaervek on the artwork. Nice and rare. There's a few other cards I wish had been printed in white border, like Kaervek's Torok or Purge. Thematic cards that fit the deck. We have a Singleton Fork. Some of these white border cards, or red border cards, you may notice the darker outline. I actually had to get a fine tip pen and go over these to make the red look different. And then we have a Howl from Beyond. This is a pseudo win condition with Kaervek. Again, the deck has 40 lands to tap for mana, 41 lands total, and 9 artifact rocks, so I am trying to build up a lot of mana because Kaervek keeps dying. If he's allowed to actually get some combat damage off, this may be the killing blow. I actually love the 7th edition Howl from Beyond art the best. I hate the Alpha Beta one, that stupid fish monsters. Blah. The rest of our spells are all creature answers. These are all for killing creatures. So we have the edicts. There's 2 of the edicts. I'll show some cards that I have recently cut. But these are the 2 edicts I'm running. This is just an instant speed edict against 1 opponent. This is a sorcery speed edict, not quite sacrifice. This is really clever because it gets around things like Sigarda. Things that cannot be targeted, like Earl the Miststalker. An opponent chooses their creature and they destroy it. So it's pretty cool. We have some burn spells. We got to have the lightning bolt. Incinerate made the cut because I love this artwork. I used to run the Deckmasters promo ones when I was using these in Standard a long time ago, before the Texas one got printed. Then we have the Arc Lightning and Lightning Blast. This is probably the next card that will be cut for a few of the cards I am missing. I'm missing about 5 to 7 cards that are very playable, and I'll get to those at the end of the deck list, but this is one that will shortly be removed. Disintegrate may be a win condition. Terror, non-black destruction. Dark Banishing, a little bit more expensive, just can't be regenerated. I love this artwork over the original. I just really like these in foil. The Merfolk's pretty, and the William Shakespeare quotes always make me happy too. Ashes to Ashes for some exile. It's a 2 for 1. And we have these 2 cards, which are the exact same thing. Famine and Dakmor Plague. 3 damage to all creatures and players. We have Dregs of Sorrow, which is probably one of the best board wipes we can get. This deck hurts for card draw. And this is one of the few Draw X effects. So granted, I have to have a lot of mana, 5 before I even start to draw a single card. And then it cannot be black creatures, which is, again, sucky. We have Overwhelming Forces. This is, again, another fake card. The normal, non-promo Overwhelming Forces is somewhere between $90 to $100. Promo one, sadly, only cost $10. But to get a legit one of these, I'm not really willing to spend $100 on a card I will permanently damage. Then we have Plague Wind. Let's see, the 8th and 9th edition cards have a different frame from all these other cards. And these stand out to me like a lot. Like for a while there, I was actually running the 8th edition Necrotoll before I found the old, I think it was a starter, whatever one, a Battle Royale Necrotoll. But these borders make me want to take these out, any 8th and 9th edition plus. The problem, some of the essential cards like Phyrexian Arena are 8th edition only. That's the only time I can get a white border one, and this deck needs that draw so much that I'm willing to keep it in here. But this is a one-sided board wipe. Then we have Pyroclasm for a burn to all creatures, which kills almost all of my creatures. Earthquake, which may be a win condition. Without lifelink or any kind of mass life gain spells in this deck, this is really dangerous. I could use Drain Life, but this is a 2-color deck. I'm not going to have enough swamps to fix it, and I can't get an Urborg. Then we have 2 of essentially the same spell. Each of these costs 7 mana. They do to 6 to all creatures and players. Inferno is much better because it is instant. And while it's cool to see some of these quotes down here, this is actually Jaya Ballard's max, her last ability. Going on to the enchantments of the deck, we have Animate Dead for a last little bit of recursion. Phyrexian Arena, which is again the difference in the bordering layout, like the template of the card. This irritates me. It does not match. I may break down and actually just remove these, but losing a Phyrexian Arena in a deck this underpowered seems wrong. But we have a Greed and a few punishment effects, something you may actually expect to see in a Kaervek deck. So we have the 2 Tainted, or the 2 Aethers. When a creature enters the battlefield, it does 2 to it. And then we have Aether Flash. When a creature enters the battlefield, they sack a creature or a land, which could be the same creature that just came in. This is really good at keeping token decks in check. Something like these are also really good when you have copy enchantments, because if you start copying this, your opponents get pretty pissed off. Aether Flash, I like this because it could be General Denial. It also goes really good with Death Pits of Wrath. This is a card that's also really good with Kaervek. It makes anything cast over 1 mana or more just spot removal. But this also means that no indestructible or pro-red creature is actually going to survive from being cast. This is an enchantment that just says when a creature is dealt damage, destroy it, cannot be regenerated. This does not target, it just is an effect. And we have a big old stack of artifacts. A little bit of graveyard hate is Tormod's Crypt. I did have a Felden's Cane in here to help shuffle in another 1-drop artifact, but this is just something to drop out early and kind of bait removal. Cursed Totem is a card I'm actually thinking about removing. This is a good card against many decks. But if your one friend sits there, plays a Memnarch deck in a multiplayer game, and this comes out early, and it just literally shuts down one player at a multiplayer table, that player is going to target you. And I can't really... This deck cannot tolerate being overly and excessively targeted. So while this is really good, this is just something that it seems hateful, and it may come out. Essentially what it does, it just shuts down activate abilities of all creatures. So something like a Memnarch, any creature that has an activate ability like Arcanus the Omnipotent, yeah, they're pointless. Forcefield, this is another fake card. This is another card I will most likely never actually get the legit copy of, because a white border, unlimited or revised Forcefield is ridiculously expensive. But this is actually a really good commander staple if you're financially well-to-do, I suppose. It's a 3-mana artifact. It says poly artifact, which means you can use it more than once. You just pay 1 to lose a life to an unblocked creature. You do not target the creature. So against Sigarda or Earl, hexproof creatures that tend to Voltron you out, you just pay 1 mana to lose 1 life to them. So they will have to deal with this first. This is very powerful. That's why it's expensive. We have an Icy Manipulator for some antics. I like this artwork. Like the original one always makes me happy, but this one with the Arkham Daxon quote also makes me happy too. Cursed Totem for a very bad version of Praetor's Grasp. This is usually going to go get me someone's Soul Ring or some way of drawing cards. It's 4-drop, pay 2, tap, sack it. Look at an opponent's deck, get a card out, and I may have access to it for that turn. Until end of turn, and then it goes to the graveyard. This is something that... It's a cheesy card. It's usually just not fast enough because you're, 5th turn before you can activate that, assuming no ramp? Kind of bad. Jester's Cap. This is more of a rattlesnake. I will land this early and just sit on it and hope that no one attacks me to invoke my Wrath. Of course, this may be necessary to stop a combo player. This deck is not suitable for playing against stronger decks. This is the type of deck that's thematic and likes to participate in a game. So this is a great rattlesnake to make people not want to attack you, to invoke you by doing this to them. We have a Nebuchadnezzar disc, one of the only ways I can deal with mass artifacts and enchantments. And we have ramp. There are 9 rocks here. We have a Soul Ring, and we have a Fellwire Stone. I went with this one. There's like 6 versions I could have picked from, and this one I felt had the cleanest text box. The 2 diamonds, I was super stoked I can include these. A Mana Prism, which is a shitty 3-drop rock. A Basalt Monolith, which I cannot combo with. I am actually running the batteries. These are really bad. These are 4-drop mana rocks that can tap for their color, black or red. I could also pay to tap it and put a counter, like a charge counter. So when I tap it normally for mana, I can also remove any number of counters for additional. Think of these like a storage land, but as an artifact instead that costs 4. The fact that it costs 4 makes these really bad. If these were maybe 2 mana and they came into play tapped, as a rare instead of the diamonds, these would be playable. At 3 mana, they're too expensive. At 4, they're just don't play these. Then we have Sisei's Ring, which is a 4-drop Soul Ring, the quote-unquote fixed Soul Ring, which has recently been replaced with power creep with Hedron Archive. And as I said, there are 41 lands, one of which does not tap for mana, which is Ice Flow. This is an old, kind of a clunky card. Just says I can choose not to untap it, and I can tap it to prevent a creature without flying from untapping, as long as I keep it tapped. Again, this is good at keeping someone with an aggro deck with a big scary thing tapped down. But it doesn't tap for mana. I don't have an Urborg to trick it for mana. We have Crystal Vein for maybe some quick mana. This is most likely never going to be sacked. And I have a Singleton Badlands. This is also a fake card, but I do plan on getting this replaced with a legit card. I can get a pretty crummy, dirty Badlands for about $15 to $20 with enough looking. I was actually bidding on one, which I almost got, but I was not there to watch the bidding end, and it ended like $2 above what I had last bid. So this is a card I will eventually get replaced with a legit card. But again, this is why I went black-red, because things like Underground Sea, I'm not going to get a fake Underground Sea and permanently do something like this to it. That just doesn't seem legit. That's just bad. City of Brass for some actually good color. I went with the original artwork there. Sulphur Springs for a on-color Painland. Cinder Marsh, which is technically a color land. I can choose to not untap. It skips an untap phase. This will almost always tap for colorless. This is just a really bad land. Then I have the few cycles of lands I had access to. They luckily put the cycling lands in the Battle Royale box, so I have those two. And then I have these two come into play tapped, which may sack. It's the Crystal Vein lands for color. There's one of each color. Again, these will typically never be sacked. I don't really need the mana, but it's there to be there. And then I have these two that are also bad storage lands. They come into play tapped, and I can choose to not untap them. And when I do, I put a storage counter on it. But then when I do choose to tap it, I can remove storage counters for mana. These are great early game just to sit there and store up, so they may help you trick out Kaervek earlier. But yeah, they're just bad. The rest are lands. We have more swamps than mountains. I chose to go with the Battle Royale one so I can try to get as many to match as possible. Had to go for the Rob Alexander ones there and the John Avon swamps. I like this one a lot. I was trying to get matching, and I just love the Urza Saga lands. So, that is my Kaervek deck list currently. This is just the cards I'm running. There are a pile of fake cards in the deck. I will eventually get more. There are specific cards I really want to get. Blood Moon, for example. If I can get a Chronicles Blood Moon for less than $20, it will be in here. There are some things I've actually been bidding on that I just recently failed again. Mana Vault, for example. I can get White Border. I forgot to bid on that. And Mishra's Factory, Necropotent Strip Mine. Some more creatures could be funny, like Way Assassins or something like that. I do really need a Wheel of Fortune for this deck. I can get a White Border Wheel of Fortune for somewhere around $10. Just things I am very slow to pursue. There are other cards, although I have replaced. Here's a few of them. Again, there was a Felden's Cane in the deck. Mortivore, again, I took this out because this was bugging the crap out of me. This is a single threatening creature that's bigger than all the creatures in my decks, or in this deck. But, again, this is not something I can stably use. The Regenerate was nice. He may go back in, but I also may end up taking everything out that has this border. We have Dakmor Lancer, which is a 6 mana costing 3/3, just tear. We have another land that I could put in there. So far, what I've played, this deck is no problem with color fixing, and this border absolutely drove me nuts since it was with a stack of lands. It always just, you had to take it out. Same thing, Furnace of Wrath is a great damage doubler with Kaervek, but this is a deck where I tend to take a lot of damage myself. I will most likely die before I can take advantage of this. Then we have Wildfire. I can't really tolerate land disadvantage and card disadvantage, so falling behind in a non-ramp deck hurts too much. And I like this because I could technically just kill myself whenever I wanted. There's also the one from Portal? Starter? Yeah, there's another one of the, I think it's from Portal, where it's a Last Chance or Last Stand. Weird artwork. Same spell, essentially. Just take an extra turn and I lose. Without combat and using Kaervek as damage, these are not actually good in this deck. Same thing, Merciless Assault was in here, or Relentless Assault. This deck started with Ixava, and it just wasn't good enough, so these have all come out. There's the other Edict, which came out because of this border. Bad Moon came out because of, I'm not doing combat. And the last card, which is just newly given to me from a friend, he saw I had this in the deck, and he was going to go see RK Post at the PPQ, whatever, yeah, whatever recent one, and he had this one signed with another Torchling, so I have another foil Torchling with his signature. But again, this is just a terrible card. It is a Mind Rot on a 2/2 flyer for 6 mana. Like the fantastic artwork, just not good enough for the deck. But yeah, this is my white border / red border deck. This is very fun to play. Again, this is not a very strong deck. This is more for theme, and the deck is essentially participating with the opponents. Like, it's a deck that participates in the game. It's kind of like a policing games because it's got so much removal. It's also fun to freak people out when they see a card like this with a red border and think I permanently damaged it. But yeah, this is a fun themey deck. If you have any ideas, let me know.